So first off, the number one thing that you always have to know, and this is good for like if you're training people, right? If you're a trainer, but also if you're trying to, if you're just a gym goer trying to set up a program on your own for yourself. So the goal is the goal, meaning that if my goal is to get bigger glutes, right? I need to throw in quite a bit of glute volume. If my goal is to be an endurance runner, okay, to improve my aerobic system, I probably don't need to be strength training like a bodybuilder. Sure, I might need to be specifically training those tissues that seek repetitive force or that see repetitive force, but at the same time, again, I probably don't need to be trained like a bodybuilder. So the goal is the goal. It should be specific for the individual. The second thing that we have to consider is that exercise or a movement pattern is just a tool. So don't get so caught up in everyone has to squat or everyone has to deadlift or whatever it may be the case, because we can all agree that exercise is a man-made kind of, it's a man-made invention that is to compensate for our lack of movement outside of the gym to make us healthier, or our lack of, hitting certain tissue and building strength in certain ranges because we keep hitting the same movement patterns over and over. So that's what exercise was made for. Okay, so with that being said, if my goal is to train the glutes, I don't have to squat. I'm not saying squatting's bad by any means, but unless I'm a power lifter, something like that, it's going to be a little different, and that goes back to specific for individual. But I can hypertrophy the glutes with hip thrusts just the same way. So that's super important to understand. The only other thing that I'll say on that as well is obviously assessment is going to be super important on yourself, or just if you're a trainer and you're training a client, like assess the individual and see how that individual moves and what their joints, what the range of motion they can express is, because I want to then program within that prerequisite realm. And I don't want to go, if they can only shoulder flex to here, I'm probably not going to throw an overhead press that has them going like this and getting all the movement from their TL junction or something like that. So kind of common sense there, but keep it in the range. They can't move where they can't move. Keep them in the range that they can put in good solid work in. And if you want to expand those ranges with mobility stuff or flexibility training outside of it, sure, that would work as well. Then the other thing that you have to consider is two things. Is as you get closer to failure, range of motion decreases. So this is kind of what kind of brought me on this topic today anyway, after seeing a guy's post, is that if you're just trying to beat reps, if that is the goal, which again, that shouldn't be the goal. If you're more so a powerlifter, again, throw this kind of out the window, because they are just trying to get a new max, just get the weight up. So, but if your goal is adaptation and hypertrophy, and you're trying to change the outcome of connective tissue, then we know that they've seen this as far as you get closer to failure, your range of motion starts to decrease. So, and that's just normal. That's just the body trying to make something easier. Okay. And with that being said, let's take a bench press, for example, right? And then let's say they do 10 reps. And then they're supposed to get 11 reps by the book, right? As far as if they progressed each week. And they go to get 11 reps and they can't really get it. So like 3-rep shots, see this all the time with clients. They start to kind of cheat it, where they go, not as far down, or maybe they don't go all the way up. But again, range of motion starts to decrease as it gets harder. And that's the body natural kind of response to make things easier. So you want to make sure that you don't do that. Because again, the main goal is to train the tissue. So if you train at full range and you don't get it, you don't get it. But going backing off and getting half range so you can say you beat the reps, that's really not what we're after. And then the other thing that's super important to consider as well is we talked about range of motion, but also speed. This is another one I'll see clients doing all the time too. As far as so I wrote down here, speed kills when velocity training, but not when training to get an adaptation stimulus for the muscle or the connective tissue. And what that means is, if I'm doing velocity work, sure, I'm working on explosive power, but you would really need to understand the force velocity curve, and I kind of wrote that there. You can Google that, but it just says as force increases, velocity decreases, and then vice versa, as velocity increases, then force decreases. So if you know that and understand that, the force velocity curve, then if I'm cheating reps, then I'm really kind of cheating myself. If I'm cheating with speed, then I'm cheating myself and I'm not producing as much force. And that's one thing you'll really see. If you're a trainer and you're tracking someone and you tell them they got to beat it by this, right? They did 10 reps and they got to do 11, and they start to kind of go faster, then that's not what we're looking for either. Because again, the ultimate goal for a lot of people, we're talking body composition change here, and again, trying to change, let's keep on the bench press, the chest press, so the structure of the chest, this tissue here, all this stuff, then if they start to go faster, it's their body's way of making it easier, therefore they don't stress that tissue as much and they're not getting the adaptation they want. So really you got to be intentful and kind of pay attention to your internal environment and that feel, and that's what's really going to give you, again, the adaptation stimulus you want. So the next bullet point that I want to talk about is, should you run a mesocycle or a microcycle or a training block or anything like that? And so what that means is that you program the same exercises, and week by week you try to progressive overload those exercises. So you try to add weight, reps, sets, and you try to increase volume over time on those exercises. Now, what they found, the science behind it, and this really makes sense to me and hits home, and I'll explain why in just a second, is that there is no magic in it either. It's actually more psychological than physiological. And so you can kind of understand that as far as it holds you accountable. So let's say that you do, again, 10 reps on chest press, and then so you did it for 3 sets. Well, the next week, if you understand physiology as far as to make change over time, I have to keep stressing the system a little bit more, right? Then you would try to do 11 reps, at least on one set or multiple sets or something like that, to apply a little bit more of a stimulus. Again, saying that speed and stuff like that stays the same. So that's kind of the thought process behind that, of what a mesocycle or microcycle is. It's just tracking it there. But again, so if you think about it, and I just said that it's psychological, well, then it's like, do I have to do it? Well, you absolutely do not. Like, I've seen a ton of people get bigger or stronger or whatever, not tracking at all. I did this for the first 4, maybe 5 years of lifting. I just kind of went in there and just did whatever. I mean, I've thought about what I was going to do beforehand a little bit, but anyway, I didn't have a full 4-week, 6-week, 8-week plan. So, but I did understand stress, meaning that I knew that if I wanted change to that tissue, then I was going to have to stress the system enough to cause for adaptation. And so with that being said, you don't have to do it. It is more psychological, but it does kind of give you something to beat. And then the only other thing that's super important that I want to point out is you're only as good as what you can recover from. And this is what changed the way I program personally, because I just said that you can do it the other way, and I saw a lot of growth and stuff from doing it that way, from not running blocks. But from me, that's how I train now, and that's how I program for clients as well. It helped me more so from a recovery standpoint, because what I would do when I would go into the gym is just crush sets. Like, I would take pretty much every set to failure, or try to at least. And so with that being said, it would take me, like, let's say I was training chest. I couldn't train chest again if I wanted to for probably like 7 days. So that tells me that I was throwing in way too much volume right into that session. And yeah, it's just unnecessary. It's unnecessary volume. It's kind of like junk volume, because I'll get into this in a second, but I know I can grow from a little less volume, and I can actually grow more, in my opinion, as far as if I structure it and set it up just a little bit better. So yeah, you're only as good as you can recover from. So take that in consideration. And then this stuff is super important too, that I've learned kind of over the years. And this is going to get as far as science a little bit. So how long should I run a cycle of training blocks? So they've tested this stuff and studied this stuff of people running different training blocks and which one produces more muscle mass and strength and stuff like that. And really, from what I've seen, there is no right or wrong. As long as you're applying these principles that we talked about before. 3 weeks is great. I could be butchering this, but like the triphasic system or something like that. I think they run like, overtime athletes, they'll run like 3 weeks and then kind of a deload in 3 weeks and then a deload in 3 weeks, doing like eccentrics the first week, and then they'll do isometrics pauses in range of the next week, and then they'll do concentrics the next week. Or the next phase, sorry. So 3 weeks, each kind of block there. And that works well. I could see how that would really work. Again, as long as each week you're trying to get better, and you keep over time stressing the system more. Or you could run up to 12 weeks, as long as you still kind of feel like you keep progressing and stuff. you could run it up to that as well. After 12, I think that your body does kind of adapt, and you need to throw a little bit different stimulus in there. Me personally, I like to do it at 6. There's no magic behind 6. I just find that it works well. I've tried 8, I've done 4, but I like 6. It feels like at 6, I kind of get to where I'm having trouble progressing. It's a lot of stress built up, and then I can deload and then start another 6. And again, I just like it doing it that way. And the reason behind that is going kind of into this here. So how do I structure them? How do I structure a training block? So how I like to do it and how I program it for clients as well is I'll do 3 to 4 reps shy of failure on the first week. And why that is the science behind that is, if you look, and I can link some studies on that as well, but they found that in individuals staying 3 to 4 reps shy of failure, you still get hypertrophy. You still can get muscle growth. So, and that means mechanical failure in the last set. Like if I'm doing curls in the last set, I actually don't get it. And that would be like an RP of 10, 10 being failure. If I went RP of 7, so 3 reps shy of that 10 of failure, I could actually make gains from there. So with that being said and taking that into account, then what I like to do is the first week of training, I'll do everything 3 reps shy of failure. So set 1, 3 reps shy, 3 reps shy, 3 reps shy. It's for 3 sets, okay? And then as I do that, then as the weeks go on, that gives me something to beat, and I know I can beat it, right? And I can keep applying more stress week after week. So again, if I was 3 reps shy of failure, well, we know that that's 9 total sets, right? 3, 6, 9, because I did 3 sets. It's 9 total reps that I have to play with over the weeks to apply more stress. And even the first week, I got enough of a stimulus to actually make change. So that's how I like to program it. There's no right or wrong, but I have found that I've been able to grow that way, or it feels like it's working good for me. And even sometimes if the program's, like the exercise variation is really different, I might even get sore from week 1, just from changing the stimulus of different exercises. So anyway, I'll do 3 reps shy. The next week I'll try to do 2 reps shy on everything. And then I'll try to do like maybe 1 rep shy. And then as the weeks go on, something like that, like maybe I'm just beating it by week 4 or week 5 by 1 rep total. But again, you have 9 reps to play with, and maybe I go 7 reps the next week, 5 reps the next week. I'm just training the tissue to get close to failure, and each week, and it's going to work something like that. And then the last week, what I kind of call hell week, is where you just kind of push your balls to the wall, go as hard as you can, failure out on everything, and then you can do a deload and rest the week after that. But that's how I like to do it. Again, it's not the only way to do it. I just wanted to explain the science and the thought process behind why I do it that way. And that's what works for me, and I've had it work well for a lot of clients. And then the other thing too that makes the only other thing that I wrote on this board is, we know that you need at least 70% to 80% of your max to really cause a strength adaptation, to make strength gains. And so if you know that, then that goes hand in hand with what I just said as far as 70 to 80%. So if 100% is failure at 10 out of 10, well, if I do RP of 7, meaning I get 7 reps out of my 10 being failure, then I'm at about 70%, right? So therefore, I'm making strength gains from week 1 all the way through week 6 as well, as I apply more stress as the weeks go on. So I hope this helped. Again, I know you really can't see the whiteboard. It was more so for me to go over it and explain it, but I hope just me kind of explaining and breaking all that down helps y'all out.